My name is Mark England. I grew up in California and Minnesota, and I live in Salt Lake City right now, and I run a gelato shop with my son, which keeps me busy when I'm not painting. When I was given the theme for the show, I immediately thought of my travels to Italy and Bernini's fountains, his river god fountains, and Quattrofontaine. I was just in Rome last fall, and I thought, okay, I don't paint rivers very often, but I can certainly paint a river god. And so I thought, what river god would I paint? What river am I most familiar with? And one that's closest is Jordan River. And if you're familiar with my work, almost everything I do incorporates landscape, and specifically Utah landscape. Whether it's a painting of North and South America or a painting of something nearby, it almost always has Great Salt Lake, and you can always recognize that by spiral jetty that you'll see over there. It's always showing up in most of my work, and that helps you orient you to where you are looking and what you're looking at. In this case, because it's to the left and you can see this river flowing through, this is the Jordan River. The Wasatch Front comes up over and over in my work, and you see it spreading across there in the Great Salt Lake, Provo area. What I've been doing for a long time, especially recently as I've incorporated figures into my landscape, is playing with scale. Everything I do is collage of one type or another. And in this case, I'm using the elements of collage of the many themes of art: still life, portrait, figure painting, history painting, landscape, and religious painting. Those are all the main themes of art. And as you can see, I'm incorporating still lifes. There's landscape, here's the figure. There are religious themes going on in many of my works, or it may be a portrait, in this case, my wife. Don't tell her that. She made me change some of the face. I'm always trying to pull from all of the influences in art history and artists that have influenced me as elements of collage. The other thing that's going on here is referencing the many ways of seeing the world. Perceptions are really important to me, how we perceive things, and how perceptions have very little to do with reality. They're always disconnected from reality. So I'm playing with the way we perceive our landscape and how we want to see it, as heroic or romantic, or something that is a manifest destiny, a promised land. And that's often seen in American history, and I'm playing with how that is disconnected from the realities of it. So you might see elements of decay and destruction, and the future and the past, what our landscape was like before we changed it, and how we've changed it in both positive and negative ways.
How do you think about what to include specifically? For instance, why the garlic?
Well, garlic are easy to paint, in the sense that they don't rot. You can get a garlic and sit it there, and it's not going to spoil on you like an apple or an orange. They have great texture. They are suggestive of the whole element of still life, which I'm always painting in my paintings. And that it gets back to the element of scale. People say, well, why do you paint everything so big and out of proportion and everything? And I remind them of when they were children, they would have a puzzle of the United States. Each state was a puzzle piece. And on each puzzle piece was a huge potato, or a huge ear of corn for Nebraska, or a huge oil well for Texas. Each one represented that state. And nobody questioned whether those things were out of scale and not rational or logical. And obviously, if I was painting a landscape as it is normally seen from way up high, from like a satellite or an airplane, you wouldn't be able to see anything. And I'm trying to reference all these narrative elements of still life and the satisfaction of painting objects and how they exist in this space and how they contribute to the narrative. So a lot of times it's just garlic because that's easy. And oranges, they're beautiful and fun. And other ways it's like I'm trying to channel Cezanne because Cezanne painted apples and oranges, and who would dare try and emulate him? But they all deal with different textures. I mean, this is a dry texture, this is a wet texture, and then onions, and each one has different kinds of textures, that's a challenge for me to master that technique, because otherwise it's all the same. And I'm trying to show, okay, I have to give myself challenges, and the challenge is, how do you render this texture? How do you render that texture and that surface, and deal with the different paint qualities that require that?
Well, we are excited and appreciate so much you participating in this exhibition. It really, your work brought a uniqueness and sort of an in-your-face reaction with some people.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good.
And which I think art has a responsibility.
Man, if it
to
isn't
consider.
doing something like that, it's
Yeah.
not doing its job.
Yeah, I agree with that. So,
Unless you're Matisse. Matisse was just all about joy and
Yeah.
being happy.
well, there's nothing better for that either. So, anyway, thanks so much.
Well, thank you very much.
Many of the works in streaming are still available. Please visit us in person or at www.ajfinearts.net.